Hi there, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Supply Chain Sensei. We are continuing our discussion on the topic getting your dream supply chain job. This is third part of the video series. In this, we'll be talking about writing a superb resume which the companies can't even reject, even if they want to. So let us get started right away. So have you ever faced a situation in which you're applying to n number of jobs? You have applied 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just applying to the jobs. And what you have realized that your resume is not getting selected. You have been applying to different portals on Naukri. You're applying it on LinkedIn. You're applying jobs at different job portals, but you are ending up in a situation where your resume is not getting selected and you have a big question mark what to do next. So this video is for you. In this, I'll be talking about different tips, techniques, how you can make your resume that you get selected. So the very first point which I have for discussion today in this video is writing an ATS compliant resume. So what is an ATS? ATS is an application tracking system. Now, when you apply for any job and you submit your resume, don't think that your resume is being checked manually by HR. Before the resume reaches the HR, there is a system or a tool or the software called as ATS, which not manually exactly, it has a certain algorithm with the help of which it filters the resume. And if you are not aware about those algorithms or what logic this ATS is using, and you're just simply writing a resume, you have a high chance of your resume being rejected. Now in this video, we'll be talking about different tips and techniques about writing an ATS compliant resume, after using which the success ratio of your resume getting selected would increase. So along with that, we'll also talk about some specific supply chain tips. As a supply chain professional, what additional things you need to keep in mind. So not just ATS compliant, so your resume would be getting selected. First it goes to ATS, right? First it would go to ATS, and second filter would be the manager. And once manager approves, then at third stage you get a interview call. Now we need to learn to balance both. We need to write a resume which is ATS compliant, and at the same time it's appealing to the manager as well. So, and this is the win-win situation. Sometimes candidate focus too much on ATS being ATS compliant and they miss upon their resume being selected in the later stage. And sometimes the focus of candidate is only on talking about their supply chain experience, and which may help their manager to screen their resume. But what happens in such case, if the resume is not ATS compliant, it would get rejected in the first stage itself. So this is our agenda, that we want to have a resume which is ATS compliant and which the manager would also like to approve. So in this video, in the first half, we'll talk about how first to get an ATS compliant resume, because that is the first part of the selection process. And at the end of the video, or on the last part of the video, in the second half, we'll talk about how to write a resume so that your manager selects you. So with this as a background, we'll get started. So very first point about writing an ATS compliant resume is using a simple and clean format. That's very important. Your resume should be clean and professional. Avoid using any fancy fonts, excessive formatting, complex layouts. Stick to the standard fonts like Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman. Now, the tool is designed in a way that it's easier for it to read the resume when it doesn't have this fancy fonts or excessive formatting, or you have complex layouts. If you have simple, straightforward resume, then it's easy for ATS to read it. So this is the first point. Second is using standard section headings. Organize your resume using standard section headings such as, this is the summary of my full career journey, then about my experience, education, skill. So these are standard sections which your resume should have. And ideally it should start with summary. Education should be last, so I will put this at fourth. Then maybe you can write summary skills at second, and this is the experience can be third. So this can be the rough sequence of your resume when you're writing. This makes it easier for ATS to parse it and categorize your information accurately. Third is to include relevant keywords. ATS software scans resume for specific keywords related to the job description. Now, this is very important, that the ATS is going to scan your resume based upon your specific keywords, and those keywords it is going to pick from the job description. Like for example, if it is if there is a job related to demand planning, let us assume it's a job related to demand planning. Now the keywords for a demand planner can be, OTIF or forecast accuracy or lead time. Such keywords would be there in the job description when the demand planner's role has been defined. Or there can be a supply chain planning tool as well, right, which can be SAP, rapid response, OMP. So these kind of tools can also be part of your job description. Now when you're before applying for any job, you need to go through that job description specifically, and you need to find out what specific keywords has been used for that role. And once you know those keywords, take those keywords, mark those keywords, and use those same keywords in your resume. You need to use this specific keywords in your resume. This is very important. Now when your resume and the job description has same keywords, then ATS would pick your resume, or your resume getting selected, the chances would increase phenomenally. Now once you have removed the job posting and relevant keywords, now here is an example I have taken where, for example, if the job requires O9 planning tool, the job has that as a part of a job description, where they have mentioned that we would be looking for a candidate which knows O9 as a planning tool. Now if you know the O9 planning tool, you need to be specifically mentioning in your resume that you are good or you have experience on O9 planning tool. So that way your chances of getting selected would increase. Going ahead on discussing more upon ATS tracking system compliant resume. Next point is avoid using fancy fonts. Stick to the standard fonts like Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman, and use bullet points and list of information. Next is optimize your job titles and company names. When listing your work experience, use standard job titles that align with the industry norms. Avoid using creating job titles that may not be categorized by the ATS. Similarly, use the full name of the company instead of acronyms. Now this is very important. Now sometimes my last company was General Mills, so people tend to write instead of General Mills as GM. So it's always better to use your full company name. Second is use standard standard job titles. So like in General Mills, I was working as demand planning. The role was the demand planning, supply chain analytics. Now this happens to be a very big title. If I put this on my resume, this is not a regular title which is used in across the industry, which is demand planning, supply chain analytics. I can simply change it as supply chain analyst. Now, analyst is a very widely used popular supply chain role. So instead of using such big titles, which might be specific to your role in your company, but when you're making a resume, you need to use a title which is popular or which is widely used as per the industry norms. That's second. Third is avoid graphs and tables. ATS system may have difficulty reading information presented in graphs, tables, or text boxes. It's best to avoid these. Now, this is again very important. Many people, they tend to use tables and boxes in order to sometimes put their maybe education or job experience in a format, in a table or format. To give you an example, what candidates do, they sometimes put their education qualification, like they may put a like degree, college name, then year of passing, percentage. So they like to create a table like this. So they may have post graduation, graduation, undergraduation, then they put different colleges name and different year in which they are passing, right? And like this they put, and they have percentages. Now when you form a table, whenever you put a table like this in your ATS system, this is not something which ATS can read. You should simply avoid this. Any form of tables or tabular forms would be difficult for ATS to read it, and it would be skipped directly. So it's better to use a simple linear format, avoid using tables. So that's was about writing a ATS compliant resume. Now, last part of this video will be talking specifically about a supply chain professional when he writes his resume, how he should be writing it. The first and the most important point is showcase your measurable achievements. So this section would be talking mainly about how you can write a resume which a manager would like to see. Such a resume we want to talk about in this section. So far in this video, we have talked about how we can write a ATS compliant. Now we'll be talking about how to write a resume which appeals to your supply chain manager. Okay. So the first point, as we were discussing, is showcasing your measurable achievement. So this is something which any manager is looking into. If you have worked on any project which is relevant to the role which you're applying, then take that project, talk about the measurable achievements which you have made. Like here it has talking about improved efficiency in procurement cost. So here you can tell, okay, being a procurement engineer or procurement analyst, I did a project which improved the efficiency from 60 to 65%. Everybody likes numbers, so you can always put this much 5% improvement I have done. Now on this basis, you are going to get question in your interview. So that we'll discuss in the upcoming interview series, a video which I'll make, how to crack the interviews or any supply chain role. But yeah, this thing we need to keep in mind, that the many questions in your interview would be based upon how you made your resume. So you can expect questions how you, by what actions, what 2-3 actions you did, and you have improved this 5%. Or to be more specific, you can also add, okay, I did a $10 million saving for my company by doing certain so and so project. The point is, you need to add some measurable specific achievements which you have done for your project, a relevant project, relevant to the job which you are applying, project, or the KPIs which you had, the role upon which you are working. KPIs, what improvement you did. So this is again a very important point. Showcase this as much as possible. Second is emphasize relevant experience. Clearly outline your relevant work experience. Focus on the supply chain related tasks you performed. So again, this goes back to the previous discussion which I had, that you need to carefully go through the JD, and whatever is asked into the job description, you need to recreate that in your resume. Make sure your resume has those keywords, those relevant work experience that have been asked for the role you are applying for. So you need to learn to make your resume little bit tailor made as per different job roles which you are applying. Third, another important point is you need to also mention what different types of supply chain certifications you have done. So there are certifications like CACP, CPIM. I have a different separate video upon different supply chain certifications. I'll put that video link about different certifications supply chain. You can go through it. So adding a industrial supply chain certification would demonstrate your commitment to professional development and industry knowledge. This is again a very important thing to have on your resume. So this was it, what I had specifically upon resume writing. There is an additional tip, a bonus tip which I would like to give, since you have sticked to the last part of the video. If you haven't stick to the last part of the video, you would miss this tip. So there is this bonus tip from my side, that if you want your success ratio to be more better, go for the premium subscriptions of job portals. Right? Like here in India we have, or in Asia there is famous Naukri.com. So once you take the premium subscription and you are a featured job applicant, then they feature your resume in top 1 to 10%. So if 100 people are applying for the job roles, surely your resume will be featured in top 10%. So you have already left 90 people behind. This is again very important tip to know. Yeah, so many people have this confusion whether having a premium subscription for different job portals would work or not. So I have seen many of my friends who have this and they have been getting a consistent result. So if you are in a hurry to looking for a job change and you don't have much time and you can't risk your resume to get rejected, I'll definitely suggest you to go for a premium subscription for job portals. So this is it for this lesson. Hope this helps you to land in your dream supply chain job. Thank you and have a great day ahead.